Jesus gives them the parable. And he says that there was this man walking down from Jerusalem to Jericho. Now, you guys, let's take a look at the road today, what the road looks like, okay? Now, you can see this is a mountainous area, right? The road looks pretty good. I mean, really, it's well constructed, but there's not a lot in between Jerusalem and Jericho. If you could break down there, there's not a whole lot of gas stations. There's not a Wendy's that you can stop and get a bacon cheeseburger or something. You've got, it's not a place to be. However, let's look at what it was back then. Now, this is a little bit different. You can see the old road here is very narrow, rocky. There's cliffs on either side, big ravines. I said there's just not a lot of place. And then think about this. It's a place that it's a road that's about 15 to 20 miles long, very rocky, hard to walk. Now, I'm not a hiker. I don't like to do that. I'll walk around a parking lot when I'm not doing anything at work, but I don't like to actually hike. That's work, right? Yeah, Eric knows. You've hiked the Appalachian Trail and all kinds of stuff, right? Goal is. Okay. Anyways, dude hikes. And I asked him a few months ago, when I was preparing for this, I said, how long would it take somebody to hike 15 to 20 miles in sandals, in the heat, in a dress? Because, these guys are probably wearing a robe, so it's kind of like a dress. He said approximately 9 to 12 hours, kind of depending on certain conditions. But 9 to 12 hours, think about that. You're out in the desert heat, walking along this road for 9 to 10 hours. You've got what food you need for the day, what water you need for the day, all the supplies, and that's really it. You're by yourself, except for the robbers and the bandits and thieves that are hiding in these rocky outcrops and stuff. And that's what happens to this guy. See, he's now being attacked and left half dead. They say he was beaten, bruised, probably broken bones, bleeding, and left half dead. You guys, that's kind of a metaphor for the way we feel in our lives sometimes. Let's think about that. I go through things all the time, and I feel like I just can't go on. And nobody's there to help me until that one person is. Maybe that's kind of not the thing to say. It feels like self-pity. I'm not trying to say that, but what I'm saying is it feels like you're just beaten down by this life. And we need somebody there for that. The other thing that stuck out to me was the words half dead. Now, if you guys don't know, the writer of Luke is Luke, and he's a doctor. Now, Dr. Luke, he knows a thing or two about half dead. I'm not a doctor, but I play one in the streets with the ambulance, and I know a thing or two about half dead. I've seen a lot of people dead, and I've seen a lot of people alive, and I've seen people halfway in between. I'm not going to use those words lightly, half dead. If Luke says he was half dead, he's half dead. He's really bad shape. So then what happens? Well, we see this priest coming along the road. A priest. He's a clergy member, right? He's like a pastor. He's going to help him. Yay! Nope. He sees him and he goes, nope, not going to touch that. But then a Levite comes. A Levite, he's a helper in the temple. He knows what to do as well. He knows all about helping people and being good to people, but he also does the same and steps as far away as he possibly can. Now, I don't want to talk a lot about these two because a couple of reasons. One, they're not the heroes of the story. And number two, most importantly, Jesus didn't talk a lot about them when he told the parable in the first place. And I'm no better than he is, so why should I talk about him? There are a couple of things I do want to mention, though. The reason that they didn't want to touch the man had a lot to do with being unclean. So they had a job in the temple. And it was the law that said that if they touched the unclean, then they were unclean. So we'll look here at Numbers chapter 19, verse 11. And that says, whoever touches the dead body of any person shall be unclean for 7 days. Another one, Leviticus chapter 5, verse 3. says, whoever touches, nope, that was the last one, let me say this again. Or if he touches human uncleanness, of whatever sort his uncleanness may be, with which he became unclean, and it is hidden from him, and then he comes to know it, he will be guilty. And that's the funny thing about the law there. Even if they didn't know that the guy was unclean when they touched him, and then they found out later, they're still guilty. Like it's such a rigorous thing that they're wanting to abide by. And there are many verses that talk about that talk about being unclean. They were trying to hold to the standard by which they were raised and they were taught. The other thing I want to say about those two is the comparison of the Levite to the priest. The Levite probably at some point had seen either that priest or another priest act in a certain way and probably followed suit. So do that. I say, let's be careful of who we follow. In this world, there are preachers and ministers and different people all over the world on TV, on YouTube, in local congregations that just want to lead you astray, whether it's on purpose or by accident because they don't know any better. So we've got to be careful. We've got to take whatever we see and hear and match it up with Scripture. And if it says it in Scripture, then okay, fine. But if it doesn't, then we got to just throw it out. Because this